comments like that or topics like that are free. So it's like it's not going to cost the village any money if we implement any of these programs. The ones that like Cav is discussing and the seniors have been discussing. Good, great comments, and I think they're easy fixes.
So do we have anything from the substance use?
Yeah, so not that much, not much more than what we had before. Tom and I are going to meet, hopefully talk a little bit after this meeting, but we've been trying to connect our schedules because Tom wants to jump on and help us on our focus group. Basically what we've done so far is to kind of identify people in Chatham who would be appropriate respondents to this. So I think we've identified about 8 or 9 people, and what we decided to do is not limit it to talking just to people who have individual experience with substances themselves, but also their family members, and they often have interactions with police as well. So, or close friends who live with these people, or whatever it is. So we're trying not to keep it just to the person who has experience with substances. What we've heard, I think we've talked to 4 people so far, and really only very superficially. We haven't gotten like a survey questionnaire. I think we will do better not to do a survey questionnaire. But it's probably going to be best to talk to them in person and just get some rolling feedback. And we've heard 0 negativity about the Chatham police. So, I mean, not that that has anything to do with anything other than I just want to report that. We've also had several people a few people out of those small groups so far who said they didn't have any interaction with the Chatham police. So we might find that that may be the case with this group, but we're getting a lot more input about what people want, what the needs are here. And again, it's interesting that we're hearing from several groups a similar story about wanting more police presence. Like some people were like, yeah, well, we used to see, Kevin Boehme on his bike, and where is the police now? And so that's a nice thing because they're wanting a little more, visibility. And yeah, there hasn't been. I mean, the needs will become a larger list that I'll share later when we get more comprehensive information. But there's a lot of talk about things that could be here in Chatham that aren't, something that may not be necessarily a police matter, but needs and support services for this particular community that don't exist here that could help in reducing the rate of substance use. So I'll have more information on that when we talk to more people. So that's about it.
You see, Sharif is not here tonight. Can you report on what?
The only thing I can say is I spoke to the congregation last week. I was doing a Bible study, and I let them know that all the efforts so far had failed. I don't remember, was it Lisa or someone said that maybe the people were afraid to have anything to say negatively. I was like, well, we wanted to know even the good things. But one person I spoke to said, well, most of my kids grew up with these folk who are the policemen. They went to school with them and so on. I said, yeah, and nobody's going to put your name out there. We're not going to say Joe Blow said this, that, or the other. I'm still trying to get folk to. So outside of the church, I'm not getting much cooperation. I see why Jason kind of got discouraged. Plus his mother's ill, he's dealing with something personal. So I got like 2 people who gave me things in writing. And it's almost as if we're going to be doing this, talking to individuals rather than having a focus group. First of all, I don't know where we would meet. Our church, there was a pipe cut in our church. We have no plumbing. So even if we were back in the church, we couldn't get in the church because we can't have plumbing. We don't have plumbing right now. And the person who cut the line, they're moving, they're selling their house, and they're going on about their business. So we have an issue. Again, I said, none of the issues seem to be with the police. It seems to be the community, some of the community people, So I'm just getting feedback from different people what they think, but we're gonna compile it, I guess.
Yeah.
and bring what we have, whatever it is, and once they get an opportunity to speak and they don't speak, then that's all I can do, you know. You put it out there, and either you take the, or you don't. So, kinda hard to get people to, you know, especially if there's no problem. And I mean, I'm not trying to create problems. If they don't have a problem, they don't have a problem.
Iris, did you talk to, Reverend Singletary? Reverend Gloria?
Oh, yeah, that's what, yeah, and she gave me a laundry list of things, you know,
Yeah,
but that's coming.
Sharif has sent that over. So,
Oh, you saw that?
yeah, she sent it to me, so give her a call.
So did you run the idea by her sending an email with a questionnaire to the parishioners?
I did, but, I had the people on the phone themselves, I really
Yeah.
want them to come together, I really
Yeah.
do, you know, but,
But that might be the only way you get responses, by email. It's worth a try.
yeah.
Well,
She sent that, but she
individuality is not a bad
sent to a
idea,
couple
too.
other people.
Yeah.
But again, these are just her thoughts, I'm trying to get input from other people. People are just not, I don't know if they see it as work or what, I don't know. I don't know, I really don't, I mean,
But do you get the sense that they don't feel comfortable or safe talking about it?
no, I don't, maybe about the younger group, this is what I was told by one of the parents. But not with these older people,
Yeah,
I guess they just don't have any problems.
yeah.
I mean, you know, everything is fine.
Good.
Pete, did you have a chance to talk to Mike about youth?
Yes, I just wanted, Reverend, if you do get a group together and you need a space, let me know, you can always use the firehouse here.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, I did, and Mike West apologizes that he said he has too much going on, he couldn't commit to it. So he said basically he can't get involved at all. Somebody had mentioned Scott Stelz maybe from the high school?
Yeah, I had mentioned Scott, and then there's the two guidance counselors, Mrs. Carroll and, Mrs. Kelly.
Kelly, yep.
And unless their email addresses have changed, I've got their email addresses.
I volunteered before, I've got 3 kids. Well, you know, and you brushed me off, Michael. So, you know, I could put together a youth group. I wouldn't be it, but I've talked to my kids. One said yes, but another one said no, and, you know, we could start it.
I take exception with you saying brushed off. I told you that Mike West was facilitating the group, you should talk to him. That's not being brushed off.
Okay, I guess they're no longer doing it. Is there an interest?
We'd like to have
We have to have a representation.
yeah, we'd like to have feedback from the youth, yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so,
Can we get?
You're hired.
great.
It's dangerous to open as well.
No, I was just wondering if I can get some information, that I do know some youth, and they may wanna have something to say,
That'd be great.
but I need to know how to get.
Yeah, I'll give you card or contact info,
Okay.
absolutely.
Right.
Can you loop in the?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, wait, and I will give you the two guidance counselors because they have access to all
And I
the
looked
kids
over
that are
your
currently in school.
the questions you're thinking of. They're great.
Okay.
They're great. She's coming up with a framework of, you know, how you might approach people without having to kind of talk generally and keep it vague, and it's what they can think about. It
Well-
gives a very, you know, broad framework of logical inquiry.
Each one of the focus groups have their own way of doing things, and so it's not prescribed. Again, we need feedback on needs and experiences. And so if some groups want to use a questionnaire, they use a questionnaire. Some people want to do it more through conversation, there's more through conversation. So CABA decided not to use a questionnaire, and I think the seniors have decided not to use a questionnaire.
So the,
Michael, to be
I'll
honest with you,
you'll have
we
to,
kinda got a feeling from you at our first
show me how I'm
meeting that you
supposed to
didn't
frame it.
want us to do that.
Well, there's
how I'm
certainly,
supposed to frame the focus.
Because this questionnaire, in my opinion, is what we needed.
well, but there's, let me challenge this particular questionnaire.
Okay,
Asking
no
a
problem.
question of, are you happy with anything, is not a valid question. It's a contaminated, it's a tainted question. if you ask questions like, what things do you, can you tell us about your needs and your experiences, more open-ended, but when you start asking bullet
You're not allowed to
questions,
rank?
you get bullet answers.
Well, if you're referring to the questionnaire that Catherine and I worked to put together, is this a appropriate, are we ready to go? 'Cause
Well,
we-
but here
I
again,
want your feedback.
on the
I wanna
particular
go
thing,
through-
like on the thing happy, I just wanna say that, like, people, when you do a survey, people normally go out and get professional people to do the surveys because they know how to avoid contaminated questions unless you wanna have a contaminated answer. I mean, I can put together a survey that's going to say that everything's wonderful, I can put together a survey that says everything's not so wonderful. It depends on how you do your questionnaire. So when you ask something like, are you happy, first of all, the governor doesn't wanna know whether or not we're happy. He wants to know what are the needs of the community and what are the experiences of the community, not how you feel.
Michael, perhaps I'm reading the wrong one. This is the two-page executive order regarding Black
Yeah, I'm
Lives Matter?
referencing the workbook.
Okay,
Wayne, I'm referencing the workbook.
okay,
which
but
is,
if we,
180 pages?
fine,
That's the cover sheet for the workbook that he's
Yeah.
holding.
Is
right,
this it?
but the executive order,
Right.
you know, it talks about the long and painful history of New York State discrimination and mistreatment of Black and African American citizens dating back to the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in America. Would you say that taints this entire process? I mean, it seems to me like the issues we're talking about are serious issues. They are embedded in our culture, and for you to say, well, her to say, are you happy with this, so forth, it's tainting a question, denies the whole nature of what this process is about.
Wayne, asking a property owner whether or not they're happy with the police department doesn't address any of those.
I don't think it's very productive. I would like input on the questionnaire, but I'd actually like to do it in a proper fashion and go through it and get the input. Because happy to change, I tried very hard, I shouldn't say I, Catherine and I did it together, come up with questions that would not be leading in any way, shape, or form. It's also, I wanna clarify, it's not a poll, it's not a survey, it's a questionnaire. It's just to get, it's no different than having, behind closed doors, not even in written, having a conversation with somebody and coming to the group. I mean, it's, actually, this is more scientific because we're getting written word from people saying, this is my experience, these are, you know, this is a program that's happening in Hoosick Falls, and I think it would be great here. It's just getting feedback from the public. It's just another tool to get, and it's broader, we're gonna get more feedback from doing this
Again,
than just
anytime you
having a
do-
conversation with a few people that are, and I'm not criticizing you at all, Tom, but.
I'm just repeating what I said before, is that anytime you do a questionnaire or a survey, it depends on who responds. So if you go out and you have, a certain type of people will respond, certain people won't respond. I mean, again, most recently, we've just experienced, once again, failed polling in the presidential election. Why? Because certain people just won't respond, and you don't poll them, right? And so anytime you're going out to the group, that's a mass of people, it gets contaminated right away by certain people not responding. So that you try to
But
build a
who's to
survey
say
that gets everybody to
that
respond.
the people that from the Payne Church or the people from Cabo, I mean, you can't make everybody from Cabo respond either. It's
That's why
gonna be a certain
surveys are
subset.
flawed, because like, first of all, if you've been harmed by the police, you tend not to want to report about the police because you've had a bad experience and you want to just get rid of it. You don't want to talk about it, you don't want
Really?
to.
You
Right,
wouldn't? I
so
would.
basically,
Well,
all of
but
this is
you
just a
would,
waste
but a
of
lot of
time.
people they show won't. Like I've had I won't vote. Why? Because they're all bums.
But,
So that's an
but the,
option.
I think we need to get back on track.
yeah, this is one disagreement, it sounds between you and some other members.
First of all, originally this was said it was gonna be a survey. Now it's a questionnaire.
Right, because everybody objected to it, to being a scientific survey,
No,
so we said, okay,
that's not
we'll
why
say
I
a
objected.
questionnaire.
I objected because, first of all, it's like, I don't know who it's going to. Who's it going to?
That's
How are
another
people
issue
getting
with
these
surveys.
surveys?
We wrote it in there,
Yeah.
it's gonna go
How are they
to
getting?
the village, the
But you don't know
website.
who's responding to them.
Do you honestly think that people are going to say, there's a question there, do you live in the village of Chatham? If you don't live in the village of Chatham, don't go any further. There's, as a matter of fact, in the town of Chatham, there's a survey right now that says, and I don't even remember what the survey is, but it says, if you are not, if you live in the village of Chatham, please do not answer the survey. Well, who would answer the survey then? Why,
I don't know.
so,
Well,
You have to have some trust in your community.
was your hope to give this survey broadly? Or
what
was it
we
just to give it to
proposed-
focus groups?
There are two ideas, I threw out two ideas. We said we'd do the taxpayers, so the property payers, but property owners. But then in writing this, I realized, why it could be used as we could gather information for every single one of your focus groups in this. If you ask this certain demographic information in the beginning, as I outlined, what age group are you in? Are you a property owner? Do you rent? Do you live here? Do you rent? Do you own? Do you run a business here? And then you get all kinds of information from every part of our community. And if you don't like that, that's fine. We can take out all that information and we can just disperse it to make it available to property owners via the village site, via the website, the list, the email list. And I also mentioned that we would make an effort to, hopefully I was gonna ask you, Wayne, if you'd be willing to help us, and anybody else is willing, literally get it out to the people that don't have access to digital media. And if there are any other groups that we think that wouldn't, we're going to make a concerted effort to really pound
get
the
a portrait.
pavement and get it out there. Because right now, I feel like, maybe there's 20 people so far in all these little focus groups that are maybe giving us some input.
Yeah, I did talk to the mayor about that. I couldn't find the dates or any representation of this online on the village website.
It's on there now. And there will be-
As of when?
It finally got put on today, we've been.
Okay.
And then the dates will be updated every time that we, pick a new date.
Right, it's just, and then in keeping with that, in trying to make it accessible to the public, it was supposed to involve the public from the beginning. The police officers told me that they had body cameras. Do you have body cameras at this time during this meeting? You don't? Okay.
I'm not wearing a body cam, if that's what you're asking, no.
Right.
The officer that's working the road is wearing a body cam, yes.
You have your arms on you right now?
Yes.
Okay. Just for me, I would much prefer you show up with a badge, blazers and so forth, but not armed to this
Can we
meeting.
go back to,
Yeah, we need to get back to this.
we need to go back, but I'd like to ask.
Well,
if
in terms of
Wayne is
making it
going to do
inviting.
the youth group, Pete, are you going to work with him to set that up so that it follows all the other groups? Who's going to work with Wayne? Lisa, you said you would?
I'll work with Iris.
Well, no,
Because
somebody,
you need a facilitator.
yeah, well,
And
a
the facilitator is
liaison.
supposed to be someone not.
So the facilitator would be Wayne,
Okay,
and the liaison would be,
Iris or Lisa or, okay.
Yeah, and my hope would be
Back
to
to
give
the
it to
group.
my very bright kids and,
Well, I'd like it to be all the kids from as many as you could find from the village.
anyone you want to direct towards me, I'll have them talk to my youth representatives. But, Wayne Co. 67 Kinderhook Street, fairly easy to find. But I'll also, I know Sandy Fisher at the school. I can ask her if she has a daughter who she might be connected with. I can ask Iris.
What's the number of the group that we're looking for? Did we put a number on a group, like
You mean the age group?
No, I'm sorry, focus group, like, do we want?
Oh, number of
What did we
focus
say, like,
groups.
5 to 10, something like that? I wanna just give, Wayne a number to work with.
Okay.
my earlier conversations on youth with Mike West, he was thinking 7 to 10.
7 to 10?
I think the seniors, you guys are kind of thinking that you worked well with around what?
7 to 10.
We had, 1, 2, 3, 4 tonight. We had a couple of people seem to have dropped out.
The business community looks like about 4 people being active at reaching out to another 20.
Yeah.
But they decided they're gonna try not to get 4 people together in a room, because of the spiking that's going on.
And that may end up being Zoom very shortly anyway. We may all
Yeah.
end up being Zoom very shortly
Yeah.
if that keeps going up, so. So what is the next on the agenda? Or do you have a?
No, I just wanted to say something to
Well, Next on the agenda is the,
Police.
what we're talking about, the
Oh.
taxpayer group.
Yeah, we haven't,
Okay.
No, I just wanted to say that it seems to me that the more of the community we can involve in this and get feedback from and let them know what it's all about, the better the result will be at the end, to have a broader perspective of it all.
I
mean,
think
the
that's
focus groups-
what this looks like the governor's looking for. So I agree.
Yeah, and I reread the handbook this week, and, you know, on the very beginning, it says transparency, 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 and outreach, community outreach.
And that's why when Lisa and I put this together, we thought it was broad enough and it's pretty focused, the questions are pretty focused, they do get at how people, we use the word feel, but if you feel safe, that's a need that's being met. Safety is a need we all have, that's what police are all about in so many ways, is feeling safe. So we were trying to get at what people's level of safety, and then whether they had concerns, and they didn't feel safe, we wanted to understand, well, how do they not feel safe? Or what makes them feel safe? So it's not just, I feel safe, well, why do you feel safe? Is it because you see the cops on the street, or because you, whatever, trying to get a little more specific, that's what we were trying to do.
But also, I mean, just starting from the beginning, my first question was, and we talked about this in one of the first meetings, and I think I remember we agreed that it's not just people that live and work in the village of Chatham, it's actually people that go to school in Chatham. It could be broadened to people who go to school, people that work, and people that go to shop in Chatham.
And worship.
Which made me realize, I mean, that makes it even, I mean, this is not scientific. It never was, is what I'm trying to say.
So if we're looking for more outreach, if I heard earlier that there's something going up on the village website, does anybody know how to make a Facebook page? I don't. Could we do that?
That was good.
Why not an event page?
I mean, this is gonna be a long-standing thing, I don't know if it's worth it, if it's just for a few months.
Well, all we have is a few months now, if we had started, and I'm saying, you know,
Yeah.
well, actually, we have like 6 weeks.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We have 6 weeks, that's all we've got.
Well, let me put it to you this way, could it hurt?
No, I'm not saying yes or no, I'm just saying that's the time restriction at this point, even though I'm a little, I just don't.
Tom, it's a good idea, the village has a Facebook page, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they
We
do.
could utilize the Facebook, it's a very good thought, because it gets to that group of
Yeah,
people
We
that
could also
doesn't
go on
read
Chatham
newspaper,
community
that doesn't go.
concerns and,
Yeah,
you know, the Chatham, Facebook page.
yeah.
You know, I don't know how to post on Facebook, I've stopped using my Facebook.
Well, my plan had been, once I got approval from all of you on this, was there's a great group called the Chatham Community Board, and just, you know, there are groups like that to let them know, and it could be a link right to the village website
There you go.
page, just so that everybody's going to the same page and they're getting all the, you know, the correct information.
And if you,
So somebody willing to do that?
Yeah, I was planning to do
I'm
that.
just
who would,
asking.
do you want all the information, like you'd have to specify that it would come back to the two of you or whoever, the information, or to Gary and Iris somehow.
Yeah,
We'd have to work out that.
Right, you'd have to work that out to go on the website or on the Facebook page.
Another question is, how do you break down this information? Based on just age or?
well, I guess the first question we have to answer is it just village people or not? The second question is, does this group like the idea of using this tactic, this tool, to gather information from all of the focus groups? If you don't, then we'll just do it for property owners.
Lisa, do you have another copy?
Yes, here's one here.
Lisa, again, if you get too broad, it's a huge survey. Aside from the demographic page, the part one safety seems to take a sensible, can I use that word, approach, pragmatic approach. Asking how safe do you feel? I feel very safe. What contributes to the way that somewhat safe, not safe, and having that text box and stuff like that. that type of structure seems to work around that type of a question. When you get into some of these other questions, and I'm gonna pick on the happy one, because I picked on it earlier.
Where is that one?
It's the,
Last
first
page.
question on the last page, are you generally happy your village has a police department? Yeah, you can say, yeah, I'm happy, or no, I'm not happy, but what does that tell you? It tells you if I'm happy or not. If I feel safe or not safe, that's a different type of a question than happy, right? So you've kind of asked that, am I safe or am I not safe? Now, questions that you're not asking are, first of all, on the budget question there, where you have the almost 200,000, the actual number is around 200,000, because.
I took that number right off of the budget, it was 80.
Right, but it doesn't include, pension and other benefits, nor does it have the bond for the car. So if you add those other two things, I sent out that one little graph that has the total spread out.
So you want that changed to?
Well, it would be 200,000, but, okay, so you think, like, I don't think hardly anybody other than the trustees are aware what the budget is. Now, the thing is, you don't really have 21 part-time police officers. I mean, you have 20 part-time police officers, but as you've already learned, is like 6 or 8 of them are filling most of the shifts,
Well, we could.
and the rest of them are around there.
Right.
So again, the 21 officers, the $200,000 budget, the 911 calls or the other rollover calls are all, like, what's being asked there, I don't know. Most
Are
people
you
would
The
say.
public, yeah, the public's being informed.
I mean, nobody would be aware of any of those things, so the answer is gonna be a generic no.
Well, I should have written yes.
Now, a
Or
meaningful
no.
question is, would you be willing to see your property tax go up in order to provide more police services?
Well, or
Most
would you
people
be
will say-
willing to have your property tax go down by removing these services or some
That
of
would be
these
a
services?
second question. Now, again,
Is that,
how you ask
But
the
these are-
question is gonna get a different
But-
response.
But again, back to that, is that these aren't what we're supposed to be asking.
Exactly.
That,
Now, see,
That's
that's
not
where
what we're supposed to be
I read
asking.
the whole thing, we're supposed to be, there were 2 things that you put in the direction, and this is totally based on the 2 things that you put in the only directions that you offered to us. One was, of course, I don't have it in front of me, but one was, what's your experience? What is your experience? And what are your needs?
And your needs.
And what do you need from your police, from your,
What are your needs and experiences, right?
Yeah, so that's why I went, like, when you ask the part 1 safety question, you're kind of hitting on that in the right way. Now, are those all the right words going to be said there? That's not the point. But that is an appropriate thing, but when we just got on this whole thing about money, we're not
That's
here,
a need.
we're not here to decide
It's not
that.
asking it.
It's really like, go back to that first paragraph. The
well, I guess
whole-
you
the
could
whole thing
phrase
was,
it,
Wayne,
you could,
Wayne, you're
Let it
behaving
finish.
like Donald Trump and you're interrupting me.
you never do that.
Let's not
The
bring
whole,
that up at
the
all.
whole thing about this, the collaborative did have this focus on inequality towards race.